I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning in to part 2 of our interview with Akiane Kramarik. If you've listened to part 1, which would be a good segue into part 2 here, you'll know that Akiane is a binary child genius. Well, I shouldn't say child, she's 25 years old now, but was designated binary child genius when she was quite very young. Binary genius meaning a genius in 2 disciplines, in Akiane's case, art and oil painting, and also poetry. Akiane was never exposed to spiritual matters and religion, growing up in an atheist household in a very small home or in rural Illinois, with being homeschooled by her mother. Her father was a chef in nearby Chicago, and eventually, I think she's the oldest of her siblings. They grew up, but no television, no radio. But however, she began sharing her visions about God and Jesus actually showing up at the age of 4. And some of the events on Earth that she experienced at the age of 4. She wrote them all down, her experiences from the age of 7 to 11, and put them in a book that came out in 2006 called Akiane, My Dream is Bigger Than I. So if you get a chance, go on Amazon, see if you can find that book. Go over to Akiane's website. It's pretty basic, akiane.com. It's AKIANE.com, and take a look at the artwork that she has done there. It's absolutely fascinating. A child prodigy who paints and she writes poetry, featured on television programs such as Oprah, gained worldwide attention back when Oprah found her work, was reported back to Oprah from people who saw it at flea markets and such. Now, according to Akiane, her art was inspired by her visions of heaven and personal connection with God. Akiane's artwork depicts spiritualism, religion, Christianity. It depicts the people around her that she finds interesting. It's landscapes. It's the universe. It's very, very interesting. Some of the things we're going to talk about are her experiences a little bit more in keeping with the theme of the Oracles of James Tyson, the Oracles broadcasts. We don't touch a lot about digging deep into religion itself and Christianity. We do talk about, we kind of covered a bit in the first part, but in part 2 here we might touch a little bit on more the ridicule that she did kind of get coming out and say, I have a personal relationship with Jesus, and not like, I believe in him, but he shows up and he takes me up into space and into the universe and shows me around and tells me some stories, which is absolutely fascinating. She drew a diagram, drew a drawing diagram. She painted a portrait at the age of 8 called The Prince of Peace. And this was from a live sitting of a gentleman who, yes, was a carpenter and was working at one of the neighbors' places, but she painted him because she said, this is the likeness of the man who came at the age of 4, who told me his name was Jesus, and off we went into the heavens. And then later on, years later, a young fellow, and I don't know if you've followed this story, or if you remember this one, back in 2010, there was actually a movie done about it. It's called Heaven is for Real, a little boy's astounding story of his trip to heaven and back. It based on the 2010 New York Times best-selling Christian book. It's a kid named Colton Burpo, B-U-R-P-O. He had appendicitis, And eventually, he was told he had influenza and a possible appendicitis, but it came back negative. And as time passes on, Colton continuously kept, vomiting, and which his parents, Todd and Sonia, knew that was not just the flu. Went to a different emergency room, with Colton, and they were told Colton would have emergency appendectomy as he could possibly die. And months after surviving the emergency surgery to remove his appendix, he shared a story about how he left his body during surgery and went to heaven. And Colton began describing events and people that seemed impossible for him to have known about. Examples including knowledge of an unborn sister miscarried by his mother back in 1998, and the details of great-grandfather who died 30 years before he was even born. He also explained how he met Jesus riding a rainbow-colored horse and sat in Jesus' lap where angels sang songs to him. And he also saw Mary kneeling before the throne of God, and other times standing beside Jesus. Well, Colton goes on, and actually Akiane is featured in the film, that out of all the pictures, portrayals of Jesus that are known to man, he looked at the one that Akiane painted from her experience at the age of 4 and said, that was him. That is the Jesus I saw when I was a little duffer at the age of 3. So we talk a little bit about that. We also talk about light beings. And you got to understand that Akiane, growing up, surrounded by a supportive family, but not having influence from television and radio and other outside bits and pieces of, the fluff that we go through in life. She talks about light beings and being taken up into the universe and taken up into heaven and things like that. And we talk about missing time. And I asked her, we vary from the Christian interviews that she's usually had. And I asked her, have you ever had any time missing? And she said, oh yeah, I had 10 hours and the police showed up, and I came out of my bedroom and the police were in the hallway with my mother. And they said, well, where have you been? You've been gone for 10 hours. And she said, no, I'm just laying in my bed. I just had a nap. And they said, no, you weren't in your bedroom. So she kind of relays a little bit about that story and how she was just on one of her many little journeys up into space or up into the universe, and just happened to be missed for that amount of time, which got the police involved. So a lot of witnesses saying that she wasn't there, and she was kind of bewildered when she came back into the hallway from her bedroom, and things had changed a bit in the house. But this is Akiane, a very, very interesting young lady. Also, what's unfortunate is that she's been told by Spirit that her ability to paint eventually will kind of fade away, and that she has other plans, or they have other plans for her, or we, Spirit, the universe, God, has other plans for her. Very, very interesting young lady. Akiane Kramarik, again, go to her website, akiane.com. Akiane. I say Akiane sometimes because there's an E on the end of it, but it's pronounced Akiane. And as we head off into part 2 of my interview with Akiane, I ask her if she's put a book together with her sketches from when she was a young child and some of her other written work.
Yes, actually, I did publish already 2 books. The first book when I was 11 years old with my paintings I had at the time and my poetry and my life. And the second book was about my poetry. But right now, I'm actually this year, I hope to be finished with my third book. And this third book will contain almost every single piece of work I've ever done, with the most detailed life story that happened to me, without no filters, no publishers and editors input on it. I wanted this book to be very interactive, where people could come with me on a journey and see it through my perspective.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Could you do me a big favor, and on the very last page, could you just put "to be continued"? I don't want it to be look like, okay, I've done my entire life now.
It's so interesting because, you know, right now we're trying to figure out which last painting would be placed in the book. And every time I complete a new painting, they're like, okay, let's place this one. Maybe this will be the last painting. Okay, this one may be the last painting. And it's very hard to figure out where to stop. But yes, I'll definitely do "to be continued."
Yeah, please, because I deep down, I never want to see, actually, this is very weird and a little offbeat, and you're going to have to bear with me. All those fans of Aki are there. You're going to have to bear with me on this. A really good friend of mine, I was out, he snuck us into a bar out here to watch an Elvis impersonator back when I was 18. The drinking age is 19. Mm-hmm. And as we left that night, I looked at him, and his name was Rick Peterson. And I said, and he looked at me, and you know how guys say goodbye or see ya, kind of thing. He was supposed to be at my house the next day. I said, so see ya. And he looked at me and said, he just looked at me in this weird way and said, "Goodbye, Jim."
Oh my.
And I looked at him and went, that's kind of weird. Well, he was dead within 6 hours after that.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm looking at, I looked back at that. And the person that said, "Goodbye, Jim," I'm pretty sure wasn't him. It was him, but it was more his spirit saying goodbye to us.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm very cautious. I never say goodbye. Like when I leave the kids somewhere, I never say goodbye. I always say, "See you soon." And
this is so good. Wow. Wow.
It's one of those things. Never shut the door completely. You see what I'm saying there?
That is a beautiful, beautiful saying.
So just, to be continued.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even when someone is gone, there's always to be continued because the memories are the continuation.
My dad came and gave me crap here one day. I was doing a interview with Karen Dahlman, who does Ouija boards, and she was saying it's just the intent. Don't worry about using Ouija board, and So I've never used them. I was always thought of like opening a door I didn't want to, and I'm thinking to myself right in the middle of the interview, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, maybe the intent, and something. I felt I was like one of my kids had grabbed my collar and pulled me back in the chair, and I turned around angry, like, why would you do that? And there's nobody there.
Oh my goodness!
And I was told later it was my dad. In other words, no, James, you are not playing with one of those. Not that he had an accent, but it was like, smarten up. Yeah, Karen can do it, but you can't because you're too scattered in your head. Tell me about your poetry and its change since you were little and your first poetry came out, and how is it changed now? And again, this is one of those questions my English teacher would ask. It's about 20 questions in one because I'm one of those conversational interviewers as opposed to anything else. But when your poetry started, when you were a little one, to where it is now, has it changed because of life events? And also, did your poetry come to you as in painting, more of, and I'm going to have to say that word again, like channeled, or what you say, let liquid kind of flow through you?
Mm-hmm. This is when I started discovering poetry was when I was 6.5 years old. And I had absolutely no previous knowledge of how to write poetry, because poetry is art is something that no one really can teach you or show you. It's something that you have to figure out on your own. But, there was a day where I absolutely, it just came completely by accident. I would just look at a specific, a word, a title of some sort, and I would look at another word, and I would put together these words into a sentence right before my eyes. It almost like pieces to a puzzle, and it was the game I used to play with myself is like I would go and place these words I would see all around me, whether if it was in the nature or in the grocery store. I always loved placing these words together. And I figured out the best part about it is when I was painting, I was able to do the same thing with the story of the painting. So I used poetry as a gateway to express the story and the description. So it's almost like, to me, poetry was the other side of the coin. As for art can show the story, and poetry could tell and voice the story as a narrator. And yes, my style of poetry did change over the years. In the beginning, it was more of a general outside view. Now it's become more of a personal view, more of a detail, more of a not just spiritual, but more of a physical, more intuitive, interactive perspective. For example, if it's gearing towards a person's life or a plant's life, or a microscopic point of view. And I love the variation and the variety which poetry can bring, because it not only could tell a story of a painting, but at the same time could take people on a journey through a complicated emotion, through a life of a plant or something, or the galactic knowledge or spirituality. I love taking people on a journey with me, and that's what poetry does.
And that's what this started out to be anyway, taking people with you to see what you see. And now,
yes.
And now articulating it more in poetry. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Because of the poetry and because of the fabulous, and because of my tongue falling out, the fabulous artwork you do, you've been, another one of these labels have been put on you is called a binary genius. First of all, I have no idea what that means. This is me dumbing it down so I understand. Is that basically based on you're really good at two things?
Yes. That's probably, even for me, I still, I'm fathoming, I still don't understand some of the titles that I'm being placed upon, but yes, they're, as far as I know, I am, what people say, I am considered the youngest binary child prodigy in the world. But there's so much expectation to live up to. But
you know what? Again, it's one of those things. People put labels on you, and you just kind of nod and think, "Should I really look that one up?" Nah, I'm busy. My life is over here.
It's very funny. I still didn't know what binary was until someone said that to me. So that was really interesting. But yes, it was because of the poetry that I'm writing and the art that I'm painting.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's, again, I'm terrible with labels. I almost cringe. I've been told I was an empath. I had no idea what that was. So I had to go look it up. I did a bunch of research in it and go, okay, that makes sense for what I saw when I was growing up. Now when someone says, hey, you're an empath, I kind of go, yeah, I know.
It's like, yeah, I did the research already.
Yeah, okay, I know. But before I did it, was like, yeah, this is kind of creepy. And you have way more titles and way more labels and to be strong enough to put those aside. I wish I had a label for that. That's no, it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing that will keep you focused and strong and connected to your family, to the non-binary geniuses you live with. Because you don't want to intimidate people you grew up with or you live with because of something, a person that you don't know who lives in a university somewhere and reads a lot of books says, Aki is actually a left-handed, right-handed, blonde, blue-eyed binary genius. And you're going, oh, please just call me.
It's very funny the way what you mentioned is because sometimes when I'm with my family, I actually sometimes get intimidated by them because they're absolutely also in my point of view, I think that they're actually almost just as or even more than me, because I think they're almost the root of my inspiration in every single project that I do, but I look up to them a lot.
Well, if you think back in your life, you are the artist in the family, but you are the spokesperson for the family group through painting and poetry.
Yeah, I think we all, in a sense, we all have our own corners of the spectrum. I love to create with tangible, mediums. And my brother, who is 15 at the time, but he published his first book at 6 of philosophy, and he's extremely philosophical. And my other brothers are extremely talented in either computers or cooking, and they're we all have different areas of expertise, and I think we love to help each other step up and become stepping up the ladder is what we like to do to each other.
Oh, that's beautiful. Your mother, of course, is a teacher, so that's a giving profession.
Yeah, she's building. Definitely, she's probably not the teacher that you would really label as. She's more of that listening teacher that actually helps other people grow. And she was amazing at to find my gift early in age and recognize it and support it. And she did that to almost every single one of her children. And she is my biggest role model.
Absolutely beautiful. And of course, your dad is an artist. He's a chef.
Yes, he's extremely good at it.
Yeah, and to me, that's an art. That is a collection of energies put together to come up with a product, and it is an art that you put your heart into. So you've got an artist and an intuitive, you've got a sharing family. It's absolutely beautiful. I wish I recognized something in my children more than, oh boy, at the age of 3, she poops a lot. It's completely different in my house. And I really couldn't focus much on her talent at the time. So,
everybody has their own time, whether it's 3 or 33 or 63, doesn't matter.
Well, that's mine popped up in 2012, and I went,
there you go.
Oh, it's taken a while. It comes when it's time.
Absolutely. It's just like a seed. It's just like sometimes the seed grows in a day or in 2 weeks, or just like a bamboo, it grows in 5 years, the first sprout. So we don't know until we reach our time.
Yeah, and in your case, the seed actually came out fully grown. So it was, stop that. You're just way too good. We are talking to Aki Kramarik, because I can call her that because I've known her for almost an hour.
Absolutely.
Now my really good friend. One of the things I needed to bring up was, and I do have an interview coming up with somebody who perceives that anything to do with spirit that we as human beings see is a trick of the devil. It's a Satan. It's black. Everything is black. It's dark. As a paranormal investigator, every spirit that I've helped cross, or every spirit that I have communication with, is a trick of Satan. And, I'm going to wager that even as a very young child, you had those kind of people come out of the woodwork at you.
You know what? There was, even before I started sharing my story with my neighbors or my friends, I did have a lot of images of very peculiar and very dark worlds that I actually saw. And it's not all love and unity that I was experiencing. There was a lot of times where I looked and saw very suffering in itself, and not in this world, but in other worlds. So before I even shared my story with anyone, I did have a lot of experiences with being able to see this. And the moment I began expressing my paintings with everyone, was the moment everyone started to not only doubt that I completed these works, but they labeled me as a devil's child. And they, one of the so-called close friends of our family started saying to burn all my poetry and art because it was Satan's work. And there were so many people who came up and said this to me, but when I was not around, they would would very tell my mom, my dad, very cruel words because of the fact that they allowed me to paint paintings of my dreams and my visions. So I am very saddened because they got hurt probably even more than me because it's their childhood that they were hurt, that they were speaking of, and this went on for, oh goodness gracious, for years. It's even after I painted the Prince of Peace. When I first showcased it, there was an agent that was trying to recruit me, and he looked at that painting and he says, "Oh, well, we're going to cover this one up and no one's going to see this one again." And it was like it was a tug of war constantly with showcasing my work. Maybe this is the right time, or maybe we shouldn't showcase my work. And a lot of people came and went in our lives. But around 10 years old, 11 years old, my mom and my dad especially, he was the one that decided to as much as he can to filter out all these negatives that were coming to me, even though it was out of his control. My family started filtering out these negatives, and they just allowed me just to be in my own bubble and try to just paint whatever I want. And they kind of were like my sponge armor that absorbed everything around me. And I think I am extremely grateful for them, even though I was extremely hurt, and I almost went into the time where I didn't paint for months because but the moment I stopped painting was the moment I physically went ill, because I needed to paint, because I have to, because I wanted to. It's because I felt it was almost the same as oxygen for me. And yes, to answer your question, there was a lot of people that came and went into our lives that said those things.
You still kind of dealing with that every so often now too?
There are obviously, you can't really stop everything, but a majority of the people, they are extremely amazing and supportive. So I think in this case, the positive absolutely hands down outweighs the other side. And because throughout the years, I think by proving to people through the diversity of my work, through the videos that I show, through the beginning to end tutorials, and through interactive video time, I think even though you cannot convince everybody, but I think you could shed some sort of possibility that Akiane is, an artist that loves to paint. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I love. That's what I want to do.
And you do it so well. One of the things that comes to me, and it's forgiving the people who said those horrid things to your parents. Without forgiving them, you can't love. Mm-hmm, exactly. We need forgiveness before we love. We should be loving everyone. That's my goal every day, to get over the road rage when somebody cuts me off and just kind of, okay, never mind. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's his. I'm forever throwing baggage on other people. Someone does something, and imagine as a policeman when someone yells and screams at me, and I just have to sit there and go, okay, well, I'll let him yell and scream until he's really, really tired, and then I'll talk. Or we do a thing called modeling, where we talk really low when someone else is yelling, and they can't hear us, so they start bringing their voice down too, and it's
and slowly, unconsciously, we started going to a conversation, solving the problem. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is kind of, it's a tricky way to deal with things, but it's frustration. Most people, frustration leads to full out anger, and if you can cut it at the frustration part, mm-hmm. You say sometimes you just get to a certain point where you're painting, and you're like, okay, I'm going in this circle and it's not coming out. What's going on? And you get frustrated with yourself. It's that deep breath, take a step back, mm-hmm. Shut your eyes, either ask for help or look inside of you.
Absolutely. It's almost like, sometimes people their mouth speaks before what their heart really wants to say, and the reasoning kind of kicks in before the feelings. And my mom and my dad always had a very peculiar suggestion. Always, think before you actually want to say something, because sometimes memories last forever, and whatever words you say, is extremely it triggers memories. So just always be aware of everybody and feel for them and listen to them. And I love doing that, even though I was encountered by people who absolutely disagreed with me and hated my work. I actually enjoyed the idea that where they were coming from and the reason why they were saying this. And it was I wanted to almost investigate the reasoning and the ideas, and then come to a conclusion and solution we could come in on an equal term. But it's it's very interesting what you just said about that.
Unfortunately, I have no filter. And
that's a good thing, though.
My parents would say, think before you speak. And if I could only go back and grab those words and put them back in and hope like no one heard me, but too late. It is hard. It's hard, and to deal with people that are negative towards you, who don't know you. And you just want to come out and say, no, this is who I really am. And you jump up and down and wave, this is who I really am. And then I start thinking now it's that is their issue. Mm-hmm. But if I make it mine, then I'm carrying negativity that I don't really need in my life. Mm-hmm. So I agree that you have the right to say what you're saying, and you must agree with me that I disagree with you. Mm-hmm. And you move on, because like an old movie where this guy was in a race and he tore off the rearview mirror and threw it, and he says, what's behind me no longer matters. We learn from it, but just move forward. Keep on swimming. Mm-hmm. Keep on swimming. Anyway,
absolutely.
And that's what we have to do. Now, one of the things I forgot to ask you about when we were talking about the Prince of Peace, I wanted to talk about your connection with Colton. Now, Colton, I want to say Burpo.
Burpo.
He was a young fellow who had a near-death experience and saw a number of his past relatives and someone he reports as being Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when he saw your portrait of the Prince of Peace, it's the only image of Jesus that was even close to what he saw. Or was it the person that he saw?
As far as when I met him on the Katie Couric show, he said it was the only face that resembled of Christ. Our relationship is so extraordinary. Even it's hard for me to fathom. What happened was we got a call. I believe I was quite in my teens. I was 14 or 15. I'm not quite sure. We got a call from Burpo's dad, and they were writing a book about his story, and they wanted to use the Prince of Peace painting. And after we agreed, and I have never met Colton ever. I actually didn't get the chance to listen out to his story until the fact his book got published. And when I read the book, he mentioned that when he did see his grandfather, and he actually had near-death experiences, and he met a lot of people in heaven, and the colors. It was his story was very similar to my story, and the first time I met him physically was at the Katie Couric show, and off the bat we just we absolutely had a blast together, and we started bouncing off these these images and our stories together. So that it's a very he's almost like my brother that I never had. So I'm honored to have that relationship with him.
Oh, like a new kid in the family.
Absolutely.
To help the other brothers do the dishes. Yeah, Colton, get over here. It's fantastic. And again, a lot of these people who are very, very sensitive that I've interviewed over the last year or two, is their sensitivity actually started from a near-death experience. Mm-hmm. They've crossed over, let's say, and were asked or told, no, you're not done, you got to go back. Once they come back, because they've been exposed to that other side, they seem to have embodied a lot more they've brought it with them, let's say.
Mm-hmm. It's like their reasoning has changed. Reality itself, yeah. Yeah,
it's an opening, and their vibration, again, or their energy has become higher. Now they have more of a connection with the other side. Mm-hmm. With spirit world, and whether they're seeing their grandparents or they're seeing angels, it's kind of up to their path, I guess, or what they're allowed to see. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big believer in, when it's your time, it's your time. And, we can all try to raise our vibration, try really, really hard to see a spirit and see our guardian angel or see our spirit guides. But unless it's your time, you're not going to get there.
Yes. That's very beautiful the way you put that, because we all have our purpose here, and whether it is for a longer term or shorter term, I think we all need to support each other, and no matter how long or what time is, because time is man-made, as you brilliantly put it, and but I think we all have a purpose, no matter if it's today or in 100 years. We all need to fulfill it together.
In your life, you had so many visions as a child. Are they starting to slow down as you become older?
Yes, actually, yes, because almost after when I was 15, I think it started slowing down, and it almost the word came to me almost like a faith stage. It was that period of time where it did slow down, but the moment I started picking up any kind of canvas or paper, it somehow still, almost seeped through me without me knowing it. Even though I did not see the visions and dreams that often, it still came to me in pieces, it never really left. It is always there, but sometimes it's more hidden than other times.
It kind of leads me to wonder what the next step is. Mm-hmm. Are you ever conscious of thinking, where am I going to be in 2 years? Or are you living right now in the moment and kind of riding that little boat on a river?
You know what? I absolutely have no idea what 5 years or tomorrow is going to bring. I do have goals and ideas, but right now, every single hour, I just live in the hour right now, because I don't know why I do this. I think I really like appreciating every moment. I am surrounded by amazing people and positive people. I really try to live in the moment right now.
Do you travel a lot with your family?
Actually, we just came back from 26 countries, and we were quite tired, but we did live in 5 countries the past 6 years, and I got the chance to live in my mother's native country, and Australia and Scotland and Malta, and I love the idea that my family decided to just, drop everything and let's just go on a travel together. And I took my camera and our backpacks, and we were off. And that's what we did for the past 5-6 years or so right now. So I'm really happy we got the chance to do that and take back memories.
Oh, how come you didn't call? Jeepers, I would have gone.
I forgot your phone number.
Oh, okay, next time. Living for the moment is very, very important for us spiritually. It is just seizing each moment. It allows us to prolong every bit of value in our life and make it a lot more meaningful. Rather seeking quantity of time, like, okay, I need 6 months to do this. If you live in the moment, you just deal with it. This is where I am right now. We don't have to sacrifice for quantity. It's finding the perfection in the moment. In the womb of your house, where in your art room, where everything is created and is born, you can look around and see, sometimes what you think is cluttered, which isn't, or maybe somebody else will look at it and go, oh wow, that's a messy little art room. But to you, that is, it is function.
It's the perfect ingredients that are supposed to, my dad always says, your art room is like ingredients that make up, sopa toscana, the soup. Yeah. It's almost like, even though they look really uniquely and messy and they're placed in different places of the room, they all come together into one area. So
that is your kitchen.
This is my kitchen.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and to be a fly on the wall without having paint splattered at me. It would be incredible to watch you go through the motions of painting. And actually, what I'd be interested in is if someone could actually, you can't do this, but to look in your eyes as you're creating. And I wonder what change you would see in your eyes compared to walking outside or talking to your brother. What different light is turned on? That would be very, very fascinating, because I believe strongly that the light in you expands when you paint. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel just filled and, I almost said tingled with energy, but just filled with that a wonderful light energy?
Oh, thank you so much, James. Definitely my creative process, even, mind boggles me as well, because every painting has its own journey. And, as you probably would notice, on my videos I do from beginning to end, painting process, I do kind of try my best to walk people on a journey and what goes on in my head and through my eyes that day and how I felt that day. And, every day what I do, I have the tendency to really, put my perspective in detail. I love detail, no matter if it's in a sprout in the garden or if it's in, the corner of a room on a frame or something. I love actually paying attention to detail, and I remember a lot. And so I think colors is very important to me because they describe emotion, and to be in a world with a lot of colors is the best thing for an artist.
Of course. Now, one of my hard questions I had saved. It's not that hard. But you say that colors are emotions. What is your favorite color?
This is so difficult, but if I do have to choose, it's probably the simple version of a color is probably blue. I could get more technical, or magnesium and cobalt, and
I knew it was going to be blue.
Because it's to me, for me, when I think of blue, it's what goes inside the mind and with the neurons and with the idea flow. And for me, blue is the color of the mind. And I love the fact that I can put a little bit of blue in almost all my paintings, just to to touch it up a little bit.
It's always there. I knew you were going to say blue. It was just...
See, we are connected somehow.
Yeah. You've got... The thing is, too, is that, like you say, blue is a emotion, and when you put the blue in, it's more every time you use blue, it's a positive emotion.
Yes. I believe it's very, it's almost that pure, pure knowledge, pure, that kind of pure feeling that seeps through you and calms you down, that peacefulness. I absolutely agree wholeheartedly. I love the color.
Yeah, my color is aqua. It's a blue. It's kind of a green blue, but it's I can describe it as like the color of, the water.
Turquoise-ish.
Yeah, turquoise-ish. Yeah, it's that beautiful water on a white sandy beach.
Oh, that's so gorgeous.
That's my relaxed color. If I was going to go to, when I meditate, if I'm going to, my happy place, that's where it is. It's that water on a white sandy beach.
Ironically, to me, the green is the color of peace and blue is the color of the mind. But when you put those two together, it's almost like the peaceful mind. So you're at peace. So I think that's a beautiful color that you chose.
Interesting. Now, do you meditate?
Yeah, always in the morning. I absolutely take at least about an hour or 2 hours to go outside and to be in the nature and just to listen. I think meditation to me is listening to the whispers of the nature, and I absolutely love that, and I need that for my art.
Oh, beautiful. To me, meditation is connecting, grounding, and I call it meditation. You might call it prayer. I actually will ask things. I put out intention. I put out good wishes for somebody. I ask for help for somebody. It's my father was the same way. There was no religious he was brought up Anglican, I think, but it was no religious base. And during the Second World War, he was your age, heck. And he would lose a friend of his in another airplane. He just wanted a quiet space to, quote unquote, communicate, in what I would call meditation. And he didn't really have a word for it back then, but just think of his friend and the good times they had and say in his mind's, the words in his mind, what he wanted to say to that person who had passed. And he would walk into a Catholic church, a synagogue, wherever, just because it was a quiet place. Or he would go out for a walk and sit quietly under a tree and do the same thing.
Oh wow, that's so beautiful though. But that's, in a sense, that is one of those moments we all take for granted. Silence we all take for granted. Even sometimes, I do as well, because in the middle of those silence, we actually our voice is the loudest in silence, in my opinion, because we can finally communicate with each other without the use of the physical words. We can communicate with our heart words.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. I like what you just said, because that's that is how I feel when I'm alone, breathing, taking those deep breaths and connecting and putting my thought, my vibration, my words out, primarily to help people who are either under the weather or going through a tough time in their lives. I'm trying to send them, or have energy sent to them, really, to help them along.
That's beautiful.
It's hard. It's going to be hard as we go through life, and especially right now with the times that are changing. And I want to live more to the moment like you do, but because I'm drawn to sparkles and glittery things, when I see something on television that says in 2 years we anticipate this is going to happen to the earth, or whatever,
Yes.
I kind of focus on that thinking, okay, that's kind of creepy. Or whether it's Britain moving out of the EU, or, that kind of thing, or, these things that the turmoil we see in the world. Are you affected by that in your day-to-day living or grounding, I should say? Or are you kind of allowing those chips to land where they may?
Since I do have a very diverse family, I always walk into very interesting conversations, whether it was from the, what you just mentioned, the Brexit and from the, them leaving the EU and or the politics or, natural disasters. I always am up to date with everything, but at the same time, there's only so much that physically what one can do at that very moment. Sometimes, and this is my theory, that we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses, and sometimes the best strength is knowing our weakness, and sometimes I do kind of let the pieces fall into place, and I like to adapt to new environments, whether it was in different countries and different cultures. For example, when I was living in Lithuania, even though I spoke fluently Lithuanian, all the people from there, they extremely, it was very only a one-sided conversation, so to speak. They didn't accept me who I was, even though because of my accent, and they shut me off like a wall, and it was extremely difficult for me to be at home in that specific environment, even though I spoke fluently and my mother was Lithuanian. But I somehow made it so I looked at the positives and things, and I just focused on the positives and walked around the hurdles, so to speak. I guess that's my tendency in life. I like to, if there is a hurdle, I like to walk around it and look above instead of behind.
Yeah, don't, and that's what we try to do as a policeman in my life, and a few other policemen that I know. When you're given a challenge, look for the least complicated, and it's like climbing a wall. You try to find the weakest spot and just go around there. So it causes less ripple in the pond. You just try to get something done smoothly. The fewer the ripples in the pond, the less it affects everyone. And just kind of deal with it and move on, and deal with it and move on, and live your life on that little creek. I always used to say that it's like riding a leaf down a creek, and when it comes up to the rock and it sticks on a rock, you don't have to hit the rock with a stick and push it with your legs, because if you've ever seen a leaf on a creek, eventually, on its own time, it'll go around that rock. Yes. So don't waste your energy. Just go to have a nap on the rock, look at the stars, look at the trees, breathe the air, and eventually it's going to go. Don't waste energy on something that you have no control over. And that's when I see these outside things going on, whether, natural disasters and things, empathize without bringing on the energy, because I have no control over that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very hard nowadays, especially with all the media information, with from all different kinds of countries and politics. It's very hard not to feel and not to understand and not to empathize. I think it's and not to be sponged into that environment. And sometimes it takes a toll on one's body, and there's only so much the human brain can hold, so much feelings, so much information one can hold. So almost, I love the way you just said about the leaf in the creek, and we do need to take these information into consideration and practical reasoning, but at the same time, don't make it almost like a invisible footprint. We need to have those footprints to move forward.
Yes. And stress is the loss of control or the perceived loss of control of a situation. And it's the perceived loss of control that gets us. It's, oh my gosh, there was a huge earthquake and that whole little school of children were taken out. I feel really bad for those children, and you've taken their grief onto you, but you have no control over that. So the only control you have is to think positive thoughts for those who passed, positive thoughts for their family, deep breath, move on, because you're just going to carry that. And when I was a young policeman, I didn't know that. If Akiane, you phoned and said my car was stolen, I would go there, and by the time I spoke to you and took your report, it felt like our car was stolen.
Yeah.
So I gave 10% of myself to you. Well, I can only do that to 10 people a day before I'm completely drained. It was a year later, someone told me, no, you're stressing out over this because you've taken on everyone's hurt.
That must have been so difficult and challenging for you, especially in that field of work.
Oh,
I can only imagine.
It was kind of funny. I went to because we're these really small towns, and I was from a larger city. They would send us to the psychologist every year just for like the update on see how you're doing. And I said, you know what? Everyone's crazy in this town except me. And he wrote it on a piece of paper and said, now read that out loud again. And I looked at it and said, oh, that's not a good thing to say. Because I just said I was crazy and everyone was normal, really. So we got into it. He said, no, you've got to empathize, but don't take on anyone else's problems, because that is something you'll never be able to fix. And I did after that, and it took a few months, but it was fine. But now I teach that to other people, saying just don't understand what go to help somebody, but don't walk away with it being your problem too, because you'll end up worrying about it when you're off. You'll end up worrying about it all the time, and you're not going to be able to help the next person who asks for help because you're stuck on person 1. And by the time you're dealt with person 10 at the end of the day, that 10th person's not going to get your time. Actually, number 2 to 10 aren't going to get the amount of time because you've expended so much on one. So it is different, and that's that whole, what's going to happen with our world? Are we worried about elections? Are we worried about natural disasters? What's going on? You were lucky enough to have a glimpse, and this is going back many, many years ago, but you had a glimpse not only into the past, but into the future. And are those still things that, you've been gifted with, but it's not time for anyone else to know?
There absolutely, when I was a child, when I did see glimpses of the future, I absolutely did not say it to anyone. And there was a point where my mom was trying to extract that information out of me, and I told her the words. I said, I'm sorry, but you're not ready yet. I don't think no one is ready. And I kept a lot what I saw to myself, and I didn't even draw it out because it was something that I was mentally and physically not even prepared to even show it to myself. It was almost that fact that not now, maybe even later, when I am prepared, I'll show it to everyone. But yes, there were lots where I was shown, and yes, there are some that, yes, I did forget a lot because I did not draw them, but there are some I still do remember, and I will eventually paint them.
Oh, that is cool. That is cool. That's a very grown-up way of saying things. That's hey, cool, Aki. That was really cool. But it is one of those things. It's one of those amazing gifts you have, and the fear of letting somebody know, the fear of the unknown, the fear of tipping your hand. I know I've talked to very, very sensitive people who are telling me that something's going to happen, in a certain area. And all I can say is, well, can you tell me what it is? And they look at me like they've seen a ghost, and they say, no, I can't. It's one of those things where, we're not going to be able to articulate that, basically because they, I think, have made a deal that this is not going to be something that we're going to talk about. And as a result, I can't tell you because, first of all, it could scare you. And, we all have free will, so it may change. So what really is going on? And again, this comes into natural disasters. This comes in, with, man-made disasters, too. And you'd like to know, but maybe it's just not time. We're a nosy lot, aren't we?
No, we all have our time and our place, and some things we're not sure even 1,000 years after it already happened. Look at the famous books, just like the Bible. As far as the historians were told, and they discovered that it was only generations after Jesus was gone that they started writing about the life. And everybody has their time, and sometimes it will destroy the present, or it will change the future. And I think we just need to lean on each other in the future when things like this come up.
Yeah, it is. It's when we have to come together. And again, it's that love that we've talked about. It's the loving of everyone else and unconditionally. Just understand that we're all here. We're all the same. We're all the same person, so to speak, in the great scheme of things. We're all the same. We're all of one energy, and we're sharing this little piece of dirt flying around a large star. But there's more out there. I would be remiss if near the end here I don't ask you, and this is just what I have to do. In your visions, have you ever been introduced to beings from another universe that you would describe as not being human?
There were some experiences that I did come across where I didn't think that they were human at all. There were times where I kept on bumping into these light beings, and sometimes there were these, whether it was a dream or not, I kept on seeing these, I don't want to say this, but like these feline creatures that were enormous, and they walked on all fours. Whether it was from a different planet or not, I do not know whatsoever. I just know that these life forms I absolutely had no knowledge of. Sometimes one of the paintings I painted was called The Island, and in the painting you would see lots of interesting figures in that particular painting, whether it was giants or very miniature figures. And those particular figures I kept on seeing, and in that particular painting, I visited this place, and they gifted me a transparent seedling, which I kept on holding on to time and time again, and I kept on visiting this place. And every time I met them, they would show me these events that happened in the universe or in the world, or just very casual conversation, I would be friends with these giants. And the funny thing is, right before I left and right before my memories of that place stopped, I remember right below the archway of the painting, I planted a transparent seedling, which grew to a nature-like arch, another arch. So some things I myself do not understand whatsoever. I just know that I did experience this, I did see this, and whether or not science or they do know that, that's kind of how I am. I try to, as best as I can, record everything so people can share and relate their stories. Just like the Prince of Peace painting, you have no idea how many letters and stories of that they shared with me, saying that this particular face, out of thousands upon thousands of Jesus paintings, this was the face they kept on seeing, and no one could have painted that, and as close as I did, and to be able to record these are extremely, for me, it's very honoring to share it with people, and I guess that's my mission in life.
Yeah, your path is to enlighten and share.
Mm-hmm. And inspire, hopefully inspire as well.
Oh yeah, it is inspiring, and it's absolutely beautiful. What you have done in this little speck of time on our planet. It is absolutely intriguing, and I'm absolutely fascinated with your energy and your being and who you are, actually, and who your family. You seem to me as a nucleus in a family that spins around you, and all together you are extremely strong, and that no matter where you are on the earth, you're still going to be spinning around. Like you're all going to be connected forever. So it's an honor. An absolute honor.
I love that way you just put it, because now I could just go up to my family and say, yes, we're an atom finally, together as a whole.
The atomic family. But I see it as not only the atomic family in your house, but I see it as no matter where you are in our universe, it's still that atomic family. The connections glittering back and forth are just fantastic, and it is a family's energy, and you are the artistic spokesperson for this. And I think your brother is the philosophical side, the head side of it. If I can, I see. I'm not that articulate, so it's I am a policeman, for goodness sakes. He's the cerebral side, and you are the visual side. And each of the people in the family has roles, and the little tiny one, I wonder where he's at.
Oh, you know what? This is also a mystery to me, but he absolutely is in love with origami and architecture. So the attention to detail is beyond my capability. So I am inspired by just looking at him doing origami for 6 hours.
So he's a little quantum engineer.
I believe so.
Quantum physics, psychology, you got the whole. You should just all leave and start your own planet. But do come back.
Kind, James.
Yeah. No, but it's a fascinating mix. And I look at people who say that, I've been told I was a star child, or I was told I was an indigo, or one of these other labels, and I think it's all varying degrees. We all have these baby steps. Maybe the 22-year-old now who has been deemed to be an indigo, 45 years from now, there could be another ascension, another point of their ascension into spirit, or to connection to higher vibration. However we want to label these things, it's my gut feeling that we are just here to do good to others and love everyone, just like a baby child, like just little children, not affected by everyone. We should all just be kids for a while.
Absolutely, James. I think that could be our motto. Let's all return back to 6-year-old and 7-year-old children. That would be an interesting world. I think that would be filled with lots of fun and laughter and love, and I think we all need that time and time again.
We do. The unfortunate thing, there wouldn't be a lot of airplanes and the traffic would
Unfortunately, I think the technology was a little bit decreased.
I want to build that. No, I want to build it. All right. I before I get too silly, too late, I should let you go. I want to thank you just for being you and coming on. Kenny, you are just a fabulous person, and I want people to go to your website and help out. Now, you have to remember that if you go to Akiane.com, she has a number of books. She has some downloads, calendars. Please take a look at these. I'm talking about you like you're not here. Aki is supporting a lot of charities, and they're primarily for children. Am I correct?
Children, it could be, anything and everything that I try to set my heart and eyes on. I like to help, whether it was in schools, children, whether it's in healthcare or any kind of field. Hopefully I could put my finger and try to help as much as I can.
Oh, that's beautiful. Good for you. So I urge you to, if you have a gift, if there's a birthday coming up, like Aki's, on July 9th, go to her website and buy her one of her own gifts, and because I bet you haven't got one of them, buy her a bookmark. So,
that'll be that'll be the best.
Because you're supporting her passion and her love, and you're supporting her in spreading good energy, in spreading love, and spreading joy to the less fortunate that we have on our earth, that are our brothers, little brothers and sisters, and those who just need a hug once in a while. Whether it's money is energy. And we say bad things about it a lot, but when it's used as positive energy, it's used the right way, it does affect the lives of many, many people. So again, I want to thank my listener for tuning in and going to Akiane.com and helping out with that.
Thank you so much, James, for having me.
Oh, it's more than a pleasure, and I hope to drop by and chat again sometime. And I want you to know that we all love you and your family. I want to thank your dad for getting a hold of me so often and keeping in touch with me until I could finally track you down and lock you in the art room.
I am honored anytime to have a conversation with you. It was a blast, and I learned a lot from you, James. So you are very inspirational, not just to me, but to many. So thank you for being who you are as well.
Oh, thank you very much. And I did send you a couple little links on what astral traveling was and an empath, and I am going to send you something from a friend of mine who, Derek Faust, who is an ex-Navy fellow who has been seeing light beings. And what's really funny about him, he described them as feline.
Oh my.
So I'm going to send you a link. He's on one of our radio shows. So I'm going to go in there and get that one and send you that. And he's got photographs of them because they actually follow him around.
Oh my goodness, that is intriguing. You got me excited now.
Okay, I'm going to let you go and say hi to the family for me, and we love you lots. So you have a wonderful, wonderful summer.
Oh, thank you so much, James. And it was such a blast talking with you. So we'll catch again some other time as well.
You bet.
So, thank you so much, James.
Okay, bye-bye.
And hey! Let's be careful out there.
Run through the hail.
done, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the bounty to get the man you're after. No!